and holds degrees from Kent State University and Yale School of Architecture. Jonah Kildare-Kohner, you're the co-owner and co-principal designer of MK Workshop Design Studio, which was founded in 2013 with Petra McKenzie. With offices in Austin and Brooklyn, they combine beauty, quality, and functionality in personalized spaces, drawing inspiration from nature, art, and urban textures, and collaborate with local and international craftsmen to offer curated objects through their textiles line MK Objects. Welcome. And Michael Opperman is the EVP of Strategy at Clockwork and on the advisory board of Magic Beans, a visionary leader with over 2 decades of experience integrating technology, marketing, and design to create transformative, human-centered experiences, the word of the day, partnering with esteemed brands like Diageo, Nestle, and Disney to drive growth and bring joy. Welcome, everyone. And quickly about me, I founded Safe Space as a response to a need that myself and my peers had to build mental resilience and clarity at our most challenging times. And with the infinite leverage that AI has today, the shift has, there's a shift happening when it comes to human leaders, and we're focused now, we need to be focused now more on creativity, critical thinking, and so at Safe Space, we started with the Mental Gym, which is our flagship program, to take you guys, the creators, the go-getters, the ambitious, through a program that essentially builds mental resiliency and strategic clarity and enhances leadership, trains you to inspire your teams, and build more efficient companies. Okay. So let's go into questions. Dan and Jonah, how do you see AI as potentially helpful to your design practice, and have you successfully applied AI in your practice? Whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first here. Well, very simply, time. It's something that's a challenge for all of us. Our clients don't have enough of it. They can't buy it. We don't have enough of it. And in architecture, in our practice, it wasn't too many years ago when clients seemed to understand us when we'd lay out, we're going to spend 2 years designing and building a project, designing and documenting a project, and then many more years building the project. But today they're asking us for super high-end luxury homes, their dream house, their unique one-of-a-kind masterpiece, and they want it now. And that's a fundamentally different thing that kind of we need to solve, and that's where AI can really help us. We need to design faster. We need to convey our designs, iterate with our clients faster, and we need to do that in real time with real cost data, real schedule data for our projects, so we can make decisions early on in projects. And that's where AI can really help us. We're certainly in the infancy of that, and as far as kind of starting off, it's our clients look at us to craft, to tell a story with them, to craft what we're doing. And it used to be we would show precedent images, material samples, and 2D drawings. That's clearly not enough anymore. They want fully rendered views of every view and lots of options and lots of materials, and just they want to be immersed in this. And that's where something as simple as the tools that Adobe's adding to their platform are just every day. They're just helping us do that faster and serve those client kind of asks.
So the upfront cost and upfront creativity is at a higher scale, larger than ever. Jonna, I wonder if you found the same challenges.
Oh, for sure. As a time-saving tool, it's incredibly useful. We also, at my firm, use it for a lot of cross-functional tasks, anything from tweaking contracts to space planning, preparing our presentations, pulling it all together. It's really, we are sort of looking at it as a tool for brainstorming quite often and kicking things off. You know, as an interior designer, you get bogged down a lot in emails or sidetracked and pulled in different directions that can really zap your creativity throughout the day too. So then when it's time to sit down and start creating, you're in another space, having a tool that can quickly pull you back and inspire you in the way that, you know, magazines, you know, we used to grab for a magazine and flip through for inspiration there. I'm finding myself using AI more and more to jumpstart my creativity. So yeah.
Not starting from a blank canvas.
Right.
Michael, as an AI expert as well, what tactics, strategies, and AI tools can interior design and architecture firms use to grow their business? If you can name some of them, and what helps you rise above competition?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I also want to, I'm here as a technologist, but my graduate work was in poetry, so I very much have a creator's heart, you know, in thinking about this. And what is exciting to me, and I'll use 3 examples of different levels of scale, is that I think about AI right now as like a forest that we're afraid to get lost in, and how do we make it gardens that we can curate and explore instead, so making it smaller. And examples of this is that for Clockwork, what we do is we work with Cadillac to create an AI walled garden that's all of their information, all specs, assets, images, where then it's only Cadillac and all Cadillac as we're talking, and then it learns. And for the Harlem Design Tour Sunday, Magic Beans created an AI garden that was all Harlem, only Harlem, with information around those tours. And when I think about the space that you are all in with communicating both internally and with customers, is possibly the ability to create your own walled gardens, which is not a huge technical lift like with these models. And that could be your company, your styles, your work, how to work with you, all that to create these very like specific ways to interact with customers or even internally for culture, sharing information, those pieces. And yeah, so I think that that's a big opportunity that is actually very much human first and human connection first.
I'm sorry I missed that on Sunday, and we need to talk. This is very interesting. Going back to Jonah and Dan, what do you see as the primary challenges and limitations when you're incorporating AI into your design practices?
I think before we sort of talked about implementing more AI in our design practices within my workplace, I think I'd like to see more discussion around regulation or sort of guardrails or agreed upon rules that we can all go by to protect our intellectual property. I think a lot of the more advanced AI that's arriving is, we just put out a rug line, for instance, that took 2 years. You know, AI, utilizing that, had that been around, we could have shaved off a couple of months, which would have been phenomenal. I worry personally about implementing some of the newer AI models into that sort of, from the concept to the production side of things. When you're creating a rug line or a furniture line, I worry about where that goes to. Where is it being utilized? Is it being safeguarded in any way? Is it going to just pop up in another designer's sort of search, or someplace where I don't necessarily want it, where it can be knocked off so easily? So I think that is a discussion that I would like to see more of before I start implementing more of the more advanced AI software. Yeah.
That makes sense, and definitely when it comes to like workplace culture and building a team, it's a major challenge right now. The same question for you.
Yeah, you know, I'm certainly, I feel quite lucky just in the sense that have seen a lot of transformation in architecture and design just throughout my career. At the beginning, I was originally taught to draw by hand. And drawing by hand, it's, you know what every line means in a drawing because you created it, you put it there. And, as, that evolves, you also learn to be very efficient because it takes a lot of effort to put all those lines. but you're communicating something very clearly with that effort. As computer-aided drawing came along, it's fundamentally the same thing as drawing by hand, but it has a few differences. It makes things scaleless. The tolerances are much higher, and it's easier to reproduce. But the fundamental change really came when you started modeling things. To build a model first and then generate a drawing from that. There's a lesson to us in that, we'll talk with, people that do that. I model quite well, enjoy that too. But you'll ask them, hey, what's that line? And they'll have no idea what it means. And you'll look, well, how big is this? Well, I don't know. The software generated it. And to us, that's kind of a big challenge. Building information modeling certainly enhances that, has a lot of benefits, but at the same time, that generates so much information early on that you almost have to sift through all the noise sometimes to make sure that what's actually being conveyed is what you're intending. And so as we think about the next one here in AI, at the end of the day, it's just another tool, like we're talking about. And it's really important that in whatever form that is, it's that we know why we're using it. We're using it intentionally, and we're using it to serve our task. And as long as we're focused on that, then we're going to do our work better, and we're going to do it for a lot more people, which is really exciting.
This was one of the discussions we had in the green room, right, about creativity, and that MIT came out a quote the other day that there's no Shakespeare AI and there's not going to be one. So I kind of want to double click on that. Just how do you think about creativity in this AI era, or how do you see your competitors, engaging in creativity when it comes to AI, and whoever. If somebody wants to take this question, but to your point, they're tools, they're strategies, but without creativity, emotional intelligence, I guess we don't really use them to, we don't know how to use them, put them to good use.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, I mean, that resonates for me as I wish I could remember and this is my bad not remembering who said it, but it's like humans want to hear human stories. And so, like the AI doesn't feel, and like I don't actually want AI to tell me a story about their trip to Madrid. I actually want to hear a human tell me about their experiences. And so I think it is in some ways important for non-technical folks to be involved to help drive the conversation for that, so that there's both, you spoke to the difference in Europe and some of the regulations, right? And so having the rules along with this way of having folks who are non-technical involved in the conversations, in communities.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I'm a big proponent of the creative industry advocating for itself. And I think, AI's output is only as good as its input. And if you're coming, like the creatives, starting with the creativity, starting with your human experience, your emotions, your very unique perspective is going to drive the output to be closer to like your actual vision. And, AI is just from an image perspective, it's just a denoising process. It's just generating and denoising based on the data that it's been trained on. It's not coming up with things from a human perspective. So it's really critical for us as creatives to come to the tools with our unique perspectives, and make sure that we're involved throughout the process. And it's never, I don't believe in putting things out as like 100% AI generated content. I think a human needs to have that touch and that, stamp on it, and have that ownership, even if you're using it to help you ideate, to help you get to that final thing.
And we'll go into actually human-centered design in a minute. But Dan, before I go into that, Dan, I'm going to ask a more specific question, and I hope for folks that are in design and architecture here, they're finding it valuable. But how can we strategically leverage AI tools to bridge design and implementation gaps, and transfer insights from large-scale architectural projects to more smaller-scale interior design projects?
Certainly, thanks. And I do really like that that word gap in the conversation here. You know, our practice, the practices my business partner and I, Joe, sitting at the front here, have all been involved with in the past. There's a big gap between the desired kind of work product, the output, and all the effort that goes into that. And this is definitely something we're excited where AI can help us solve this. You might see some images flashing around, and I don't know if it's been up there yet, but an image of stone wall panels on a project. And something just as simple and clean and what looks really elegant takes a whole lot of effort and work to actually produce. And you know, for us, it's our fee is typically based on the construction cost of a project. So the more expensive materials, like those stone panels, the higher the construction cost, the more fee that we have to explore, experiment, and really study and make that all happen. You know, that gap is minimized on those expensive projects, but it's huge on projects which don't have those insane budgets. And you know, that's where we have a challenge. We can do that effort that we would want to do with a stone panel, but if we do it on a project that has, say, cheap plywood panels, cheaper, they're still quite expensive these days, there's a big disconnect. And we have to, you know, ask ourselves, well, A, are we going to just keep things a lot looser and not deliver that same amount of design, thought, and effort? Or do we say, well, you know, screw it, let's just do it anyways and lose a lot of money in the process? You know, or the worst case that we absolutely want to avoid is we pay our people really poorly and have them work long hours and do it regardless. And we certainly don't want to do that. And, you know, I also just want to share, like, we do this and why we're doing that effort. It's not because, you know, we enjoy it, we like it, we do enjoy it, but it's not for art, kind of architecture's sake. It's to create an effect on a space. And a client of ours, I thought, said this really well. We were looking at a project and just tracing joints, how the floor joints lined up with the walls traced across the ceiling. And the client, you know, was geeking out with us over that, but then stopped and said, nobody else is gonna notice this. They're not gonna care. But every single person that comes in this space is gonna feel it. And it feels calm, it looks calm, it's peaceful. And it's like, that's why we're doing all this, is to create those experiences, create those effects. So anything that lets us do that for more people and easier and in more projects, that's really exciting to do that for more.
Are you engaging into any AR technologies, or what, when you say feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly in kind of emerging kind of state. Like at this point where our efforts are you know, focused on how can we do the simple tasks, the day-to-day stuff easier and quicker. So, you know, using Adobe tools to better quickly represent what we're trying to do gives us more time to then really focus and iterate on the design where the heart of it is. But we're definitely excited to keep kind of looking around both within the architecture realm and then other industries, graphics and whatnot, to see how tools and problems in those realms can really help us solve and do what we're trying to do in our day-to-day work.
Thank you, and I'm going to shift to Alexia here, and we're both training human-centered design. So I love these questions, this line of question. So I know you're focused on human-centered design approach to AI. So how can a human-centered approach to integrating AI tools strategically streamline ideation, enhance our skills, and augment rather than replace the design process? And you had just started speaking to this topic a little bit earlier, but do you want to dive deeper?
Yeah, I have the really lucky job to be a visual artist that is working as a creative professional. And so I'm coming from the perspective of like, I just love to make things, but also I'm working in service of clients. And so when it comes to creating proof of concepts, what's great is I have all these skills, these technical skills in software like Blender, Unreal Engine, Touch Designer. And so AI can now integrate into a lot of these tools and really speed up the process of like concept to showing a client what you're thinking. And so it really allows you as a creative, like we have all these very abstract ideas, right? And before you had to like get an art director to like mock it up and try your best to like get them to see this concept. But now you can really show them and get them to feel like with more substance what you're trying to basically sell to them. And at Edelman, I've been able to work with designers and technologists to rapidly build prototypes that really demonstrate what we're trying to achieve. And the client's like, oh, I get it. Like, let's totally do this. And it's just like a great way to get people excited. And so even when it comes to AR, like one thing we did was very rapidly build this prototype where you scan your phone over just like any household object. We used like a rubber ducky as an example, and then it showed like Legos coming down over the rubber ducky, and it tells you like how many pieces, like how many Legos you need, the colors, and it does it right there for you, and then you can just like order that very custom Lego piece that you just scanned. And so that's like an AR thing. We also, like I helped spearhead an internal innovation sprint. So we sprint for like 2 to 5 days where we identify like a culturally relevant problem. It's a team of our expert designers, technologists, and creatives, and we use AI to like quickly, prototype these things. And then we can bring that to our like wide, variety of clients, and we approach it where it's like we can build a framework. Like for example, we built like a story builder prototype that essentially allows you to place any loved one in the center of like the world's most classic stories. So you could be Alice in Wonderland, or I could be, Cinderella, and they're public domain because, we want to make sure that like we're not breaking any copyright rules. And we've had several clients that are like, wow, we love this framework. So even if the use case is different for each individual client, we've built a framework very quickly in like 3 days that we've been able to sell. And so all of that comes from like, we as humans are identifying a relevant cultural problem. We as humans are using the tools to help us rapidly, build that solution. But at the end of the day, we're really at the center of all of that. So the strategy, the ideation, the prototyping, all of that is fueled by AI, but we are at the center of it.
And you touched on this, but how much faster can you execute on a brief, ballpark,
Well,
now with AI tools?
If you guys are anything like us, the timelines just keep getting shorter. But yeah, like if we get a brief, we're just able to like, build those proof of concepts within, a few days. And obviously we need to like gather resources, but I can work with an art director, a creative director, on the copy side, and we can in a few days just be able to like develop, an image, or, sometimes we have enterprise tools that we use in terms of like the actual work. But when we're just demonstrating concepts, there's so many tools out there.
Can you name some of them for the audience?
I think one of them is in the back there, and I think it's very relevant for this audience. Like you'll see it come up, but it's called Kriya AI. And so in the demo, basically, I went into Blender, and this is like super cool. And I just I kind of visualize a corner of a room, and I just put 2 blocks on either side, and this is untexturized, just viewport, and then 2 blocks on the wall. And then in Kriya, you can actually like real-time screen your 3D viewport. And basically, I just typed in 2 couches with a window in the back and some, decor on the wall, mid-century modern style. And in real time, it shows you, like it takes that viewport and it just translates it, and you see a couch, and you see a window, and you see some like imagery, and you can, change the seed to just quickly go through these images just to get an idea, just to start pressure testing your ideas. And then in the workflow that I did, I took an image from Korea and then I used it as a reference image in my 3D software, which was Blender. And then I started to like be like, well, I want this couch to be blue, or I want this to be this type of painting on the wall. And so, you know, before it might take a really long time to be able to just quickly put that together for a client, but now it's like I was able to do that, you know, in less than a few hours.
And in terms of repetitive tasks, which we all need to do, and we're looking to replace that with AI, right? How do you see that happening at your company at Elmon, and how, and in your, I guess, in your creator life, how does that impact it?
Yeah, for sure. And for I can speak in terms of Edelman. So we are a global company. We have 6,000 employees. So we have to follow, you know, we want to protect our clients. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're doing things in a legally compliant way. And so all of the tools that we use have third-party indemnification. So Adobe, Shutterstock. So any image that, you know, Adobe has ethically trained their models, it's all on their own stock library. It's not any like assets or images that, you know, are just scraped from the internet. And they're really leading the way in terms of, you know, obviously they have a huge enterprise presence, and you know, it's the industry standard for, you know, creative software in that regard. And so now they're building these solutions for agencies, brands to basically automate the really like mundane and like clunky tasks of like resizing and like generative fill and generative expand, all these things that we're now using that's like, oh my God, this is making my life so much easier. They're building like a pipeline for you to be able to do that even faster, and being able to collaborate with your teams in a way that's like super seamless. And so we'll continue to see Adobe like really doing well in that regard. And it's great because they're also a client of ours. So it's like we're able to not only take advantage of these tools, but we're also able to create in service of our client as well.
And I posed this question earlier, but in terms of AR and simulations, how is AI changing the client-facing discussions or internal creative discussions, and how does that sell your pitch better, or assuming that it's better?
Yeah, I think it really helps with the brainstorming process. I think, like what I was saying earlier, I'm always so shocked with like how much people don't like use these tools like every day, because I'm so in the weeds. Like I'm like for everything, I'm helping it just like, you know, one of the things that I like to tell creatives like in a brainstorm too is ask AI, like let's say ChatGPT in this instance, but it could be Claude, it could be Gemini. What questions should I ask myself? What did I miss here? What should I be considering? Instead of asking the tool to give you the answers, like ask it to help you kind of like work through your thought process. And so we, you know, approach kind of like brainstorming in that way too, which I like to think of it as like unlocking the side of your brain that you're not necessarily like, you know, I'm very right-brained, right? And so all the like administrative and like those kinds of mundane things, like it just blocks my creativity. And so using these tools like in ideation and strategy and like refining your insights, like even like using the tools to research things, to kind of pressure test things, it really helps us strengthen our creativity. And then being able to use imaging tools like Adobe or DALL-E or Midjourney to start like visualizing that. It really, really helps to like help the client kind of see what we're envisioning.
And have you seen these tools being adopted across the company, across your organization, or some people are more reluctant?
For the clients or internally?
Internally.
So Edelman is very, like we have, you know, as soon as AI started becoming a thing, we established an AI task force. And so that's leaders from every corner of the business. You know, for me, it's creative, but there's strategy, there's data. Like we have all these leaders who are like at this kind of center of excellence. And we very quickly developed our guidelines. We're very like, you know, we want people to experiment. We don't want people to be afraid of using these tools. We want people to be curious. We want our clients to be curious. Obviously, there's always going to be levels of like risk versus like I want to be the first to do this with this thing. But we're very careful about how we approach it, but also we're coming from a sense of curiosity, right? Like AI is not going anywhere. You know, eventually every company is going to be an AI company, so we want to make sure that we're moving at the speed of culture, and doing it through, you know, expertise, right? We were saying like, is anybody really an AI expert? Like it's changing so quickly, but you know, people that are dedicated to really researching these tools, experimenting with them, and bringing those learnings to the work.
Yeah, and finding new use cases. I'm gonna ask a more specific question in terms of in terms of AI-powered algorithms. How do you see this contributing to space optimization and efficiency in design projects? And how do AI-driven insights redefine the UX and satisfaction in interior and exterior spaces? Whoever wants to take that question.
I can jump in, and building on what Alexia is saying too, in terms of I love the like speeding up imaginations connecting, you know, the imagination of the designer and the imagination of the customer or the inn. And again, you had mentioned Kriya and Firefly, and there's also Delve and architectures and, you know, a number of these things. So I think it is, when I think about that, and there's a great woman-owned company in San Francisco called Spatial Think. And they're doing a lot of 3D AR overlay stuff in terms of spaces that is AI powered. But I think when I think about that, I think about these tools being that, which is the ability to connect imaginations faster and have conversations that are quite visual. I'm not sure if I'm getting at the question you're asking.
Yes, totally. And if you'd like to touch on privacy and security, and I think everyone had some sort of opinion here, but if you want to dive deeper into how can interior designers and architects navigate the privacy and security and data security issues when they're utilizing AI-driven solutions.
Yeah, and again, echoing other folks on the stage and like what we had talked about behind too with Europe and the regulations is we're now reliant, unfortunately, a lot on the hand-wavy language of the AI models. And there are moves for on-premise AI that would be completely sort of, I'll say, secure with these things in terms of privacy, but we're not there, and that's actually quite expensive. So I think it is a huge concern because what sometimes the companies building these models will say that they're not training on certain data, then we'll find out the next week that they actually are. So I find it a huge concern and don't have an answer exactly other than making sure that non-technical folks and communities are really involved, because I think there's issues also of bias, you know, which we haven't brought up, which is a big deal as well. Yeah.
Are you seeing any strategy in amongst your competitors or your peers? What are they doing in regards to data privacy? If you can name.
What's the emoji for the face I just made? Nothing that feels yet like it has traction. Yeah, like I think we're all trying to figure out how to both make use of the tools. We're white knuckling it a little bit, hanging on for the ride, with a little bit of trust, a little bit of faith, and there's an awful lot of power with the folks who are, you know, building the models.
And I guess with that being said, how do you foresee the future of AI in the field of design? What can we expect in the next coming years?
Next coming minutes?
Next coming minutes.
There's a podcast that I listen to, I think it's the AI Daily Break, I think, and it's like less than 20 minutes a day or 17 minutes, and that is talking about the upcoming models, and that I follow that, and I think that part of it is like, I think about it as like we don't even know what we don't know, because it's like the telephone took like 75 years to get to 100 million users, and Facebook took 5 years, and ChatGPT took 2 months, and you know we just got Chat 4.0, and so I think this is the fastest it's ever moved and the slowest it will ever move, and so I think. I wish is there a futurist in the audience?
By the way, do you know what O stands for? And yes, Do you have
Is
an
it
idea?
Omni or Omega or
Omnivore, or
Omnivore?
omni-channel.
Omnichannel. Okay, yeah.
Intakes a lot of different types of content, right? Text, image, video, which I find it really curious, interesting.
I think the one thing I will say that is interesting, and this touches on accessibility when you say the future, I think, and you hit on it with the Omnivore, which is that I think the velocity of image recognition, voice recognition, those kinds of pieces are like even the stuff that's coming with voice chat and customer service and interaction is already both, it's breathtaking and terrifying.
Okay, final round. I want to ask, and this is a surprise question. No, if you could give an advice to the audience, folks that are in your field or adjacent, or we're all creatives, entrepreneurs in New York City. So I guess one final word of advice for the audience. Okay.
Oh, sure, I'll go first. Don't be fearful. Really, just maybe take 20 minutes a day, even just getting familiarizing yourself with what's currently out there, because it is rapidly changing. And the longer you wait to get on board, the further back you'll be. And it is inevitable. It's here. So embrace it and utilize it how you can to make yourself more successful and speed up your processes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I heard something from Richard E. Pelzer II, who's, I know him as the unofficial mayor of Harlem, is what he's called. But the phrase he used was eat the risk, which I think, echoing you.
Yeah, and similarly, be curious, be conscious, just keep reminding yourself this is working for you and helping you do kind of more of what you love to do.
One, experiment. Approach all the tools with a sense of curiosity. Even try to break the tools, right? See how far you can go. Two, do your research. There's so many newsletters, blogs, YouTube channels, 2 websites that you can just see the amount of tools that are out there, Futurepedia, and there's an AI for that. There's one, it's literally called that. And then I would also say like some good newsletters is TLDR. They capitalize that name real quick, and they have sections on tech, design, AI. Like you can choose what category you want to follow, and it's really easy to just be like, okay, that's the update. And I know it's overwhelming because things are literally changing every day, but if you just approach it with curiosity, find a couple podcasts or newsletters that you want to pay attention to, and then just go in the tools and experiment. Scott Galloway said at Cannes last year, he said, AI is not going to take your job. Someone who knows AI is going to take your job. So I'll leave you all with that.
And that still stands. What I found really interesting was to build live with peers. So I go on Zoom and I build like custom GPTs, and we're experimenting together online, or if there's groups IRL, I would love to hear about that. Also, my advice is stay kind, stay foolish. Okay, I love this conversation. Learned so much. I hope the audience did too. I hope you guys had fun. Thank you so much for today, and stay for the next panel.
Thank you, guys.